Good night, everyone. Welcome back to your favorite live sports show. Hashtag this just in. And we're welcoming back your favorite guest, Brian Bolster of Bolstered Up Sports and Warzone Network. What's going on, Brian?
Hey, nothing too much. It's a crazy off season. It just keeps going. So I feel like this is the first year that we've actually seen all the quarterback changes that have been hyped up year after year. So I'm excited.
I thought we were going to go on NBA stuff, but the NFL offseason would just not leave me alone. And my favorite bowling pro who needs to give me some lessons, Payton Doyle. Thanks for coming back on.
Yeah, man, it's good. Thanks for having me. I can't wait to talk about all this stuff. I mean, we all knew that when Baker Mayfield was going through all this stuff and now the Browns are in the news that I had to make my return back here. So
because you're the only Browns fan I know, like literally the only Browns fan I know. So let's not waste any more time. Big news. Not Tom Brady, not Aaron Rodgers, not Russell Wilson. Yeah, that was a week ago. The very next week, Deshaun Watson said Cleveland Browns are out of the running, but 2 days later reversed course and indeed lifted his no-trade clause to be traded to the Cleveland Browns for what I think were 3 first-round picks and a handful of other picks and stuff. We won't get into it other than to ask the only Browns fan I know, does Deshaun Watson arrival in Cleveland, does it make your team a Super Bowl contender? No.
I believe so, but you have to pay respect to all the other teams in the AFC that are all making tremendous moves. They're all improving. You look at the AFC West, you think you could have 4 teams that you could consider as possible contenders. Even in the AFC North, in the same division as the Browns, you see the Ravens. They're going to get healthy and they're going to improve from last year. What do we do with the Bengals now that they're spending all this money to fix their big need, which was the offensive line? And the Steelers are always going to be a tough team to beat. The question really is, are the Browns going to be contenders? Is Deshaun Watson going to be on the field? And how many games is he going to be on the field for? That's really what's going to determine, are they contenders this year? Now, the year after, I believe so. Because you see this offense, Case Keenum had success in this offense. Baker Mayfield for a season had success in this offense. Kirk Cousins had success in this offense. Deshaun Watson is the first player to play in Kevin Stefanski's offense that is actually like elite and top tier at the quarterback level. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do now that he has an offensive line, now that he has a good coach with a system that doesn't put a lot of pressure on him. He has a number 1 receiver in Amari Cooper. He has a fantastic running game and a defense that can actually get off the field. I think the Browns majorly improved because they were one of those teams that everyone said, well, if they had a better quarterback, they might be better. Now they have a better quarterback. So the excuses are off the table. You have to be at minimum a top 8, top 5 offense in the league.
Brian, same question. I know you're not a guy trapped in the moment, but does Deshaun Watson now make the Browns a legit Super Bowl contender?
They should be. If we're just saying he's on the field, he's playing, they should be, but they won't be. Unfortunately, there is some of the baggage that is coming, just realistically, and it is Cleveland. So I do think that they have kind of some real demons to shake. And like Payton brought up, the AFC North is brutal, but the AFC just in general is really brutal. So it's not going to be easy for anybody to get out, especially just with some of the roster turnover that they've had, a new quarterback coming in, and still a fairly unproven head coach, at least on that level of realistically contending for a Super Bowl.
Like y'all guys, I want to say this is a Super Bowl roster because last offseason I made the mistake of saying this should be a favorite to come out of the AFC, and then, well, we all know Baker Mayfield bakered up the place. I will say this mission, it depends on how many games Deshaun Watson inevitably has to miss because of whatever suspension. I will say, though, that's kind of mitigated by the arrival of Jacoby Brissett. I think they can still win games with him under center. And when you really look at this roster, I'm surprised Payton didn't go through this man for man, so I'll do it. They traded for Amari Cooper, who is still, in my estimation, a top 15 wide receiver in this league. You have a very good offensive line, the best running back tandem in all of football, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, if Kareem Hunt is indeed still there. Then sometimes hit or miss your defense could be, elite, and other times not so much. But you still have elite players in Myles Garrett, in Denzel Ward. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is going to be that dude at some point in time. You have a very good secondary. I think by roster, this team should be really good. And the reason I want to trend towards this being a Super Bowl contender, and sorry to bring this up, Payton, I know you relived this last season, but with Baker Mayfield, I think the Browns had 5 one-score losses. 4 of those games, Baker Mayfield played in. In those games, guys, I want to see he had a touchdown to interception ratio of 5-5, which obviously is not going to cut it. That's a reason you're going to lose one-score games. But I'm going to go into it even further. Sorry again, Payton. There are 3 games in particular that have Baker Mayfield's fingerprints all over them. The first, it's the very first game of the season. Browns have the ball in their hands to drive to win the game against Kansas City Chiefs. Guess what happens? Baker Mayfield throws an interception. Game over. Gets the LA Chargers in a wild back and forth. The ball again is in Baker Mayfield's hands. The Browns don't even get past the 50-yard line to finish the game. Then against my good old Packers right here in Lambeau Field, again, Browns have the ball in Baker Mayfield's hands, throws an interception, game over. I told my good friend Dwayne Marcus on this program at the start of last season, you will see the problems with Baker Mayfield if he has the ball in his hands at the end of the game. Are you relying on him to win when you can no longer mask running the football and covering all his inefficiencies? You can no longer do that. You have to get the ball up. You have to spread the ball around, and you are going to see his inefficiencies. And Deshaun Watson, the last time we saw him play football, was a top 10 quarterback, and I still think he is going to be that dude. This roster, the upgrade at quarterback, I believe in Kevin Stefanski. I have to say this is a contender, but y'all made the point. The AFC North, the AFC West, the AFC on a whole is just so damn brutal. It's not even a guarantee to even get into the playoffs. But guys, there's also one more mitigating factor, and that is the pending 22 civil cases of sexual assault / harassment levied against Deshaun Watson. Yet the Browns saw no problem in handing him the most guaranteed money of any player in the history of the NFL to the tune of $230 million. Brian, I saw you shake your head, and I know your Twitter post, so I'm going to go directly to you. In light of that guaranteed money and the civil cases still pending against Deshaun Watson, did the Browns make a huge mistake here?
It's all about perspective, right? I think if we're honest with ourselves and what the NFL is and what the NFL's MO is, they know that people will forget. And once he gets on the field and is playing good football, you're going to take the PR hit to start, and then everything's going to be good. And so that's the thing. I'm glad that my team didn't pick him up, even though he is a great talent, just to put me in conflict of rooting for him. It's one of those things that's really tough because without getting too deep into the weeds, like due process is something that's very, very, very important for our global society throughout history. It's really important. And we have to give him that benefit of the doubt. We also know, based on the statistics of sexual assault, I'll just say they aren't favorable in this situation, right? So did they make a mistake morally? I think that's up for debate, to say the least. In terms of football, and at the end of the day, what Andrew Berry's job is, no. because, again, it's a cold, cold business, as we saw with David Ojabo. If you guys saw that video of him tearing his Achilles, like, it is a cold business. And sadly, at the end of the day, for the business of the NFL, it is worse to do what Calvin Ridley did than Deshaun Watson, which is brutal. But that's how the NFL perceives things. So, is it a mistake? I don't want to call the man guilty when I don't know, but I'll just say I'm glad that he's not playing for the Titans despite being an elite quarterback.
And for those who don't know, Brian was referencing the combine where David Ojabo was, going through drills, tore his ACL, non-contact, and the NFL coaches did not even bat an eye, didn't blink. Somebody picked up the ball, on to the next drill. Payton, this is your team. How do you feel as a fan acquiring Watson with this, or with these cases hanging over his head? And do you think it was a mistake for the Browns to do this?
I don't think it was a mistake for the Browns to do this. Obviously, all that stuff needs to be taken completely seriously. But once the judge ruled that it was no longer criminal, that's when the team started calling. Because if there was criminal allegations, there was no one calling for Watson during the season and during last offseason because that was unclear. Once the judge said that nothing was criminal, or that there wasn't enough evidence to say that it was criminal, that's when teams started calling. So I think that the Browns, as a business, looked at it like this. The one gaping need that your team has is quarterback. There is an elite quarterback that is available. Other teams want him other than you. Are you going to let him go to another team and risk losing your job if you're Andrew Berry by having to extend Baker and keep him on the team? Or are you going to take the risk, take the PR hit initially, and possibly take the hit of having him suspended at the beginning of the year and then have a franchise quarterback for the next decade? I think they made the right football move, and I think it's a move that's risky, but after this all settles, like Brian said, sadly, in the NFL, everyone forgets. Everyone forgets. The media is going to die down about it, and life is going to go on, and we're going to say it was a great football move that elevated the looks of the Cleveland Browns as a franchise.
So I'm with y'all guys here. Football move, obviously, on Baker Mayfield alone, you had to upgrade the position. There's no doubt about that. With somebody like Deshaun Watson hanging around, thankfully, I guess, I may use my words very carefully, but I guess if they didn't get him, they didn't have to worry about him being in the AFC because he would have gone possibly to the NFC South. It's not a good look. I'll say this. And the reason it's not a good look, in my estimation, is particularly the contract. I'm not just guaranteeing him $230 million, but guaranteeing him the money in such a way that even if he's suspended for the entire next season, he doesn't lose a cent, or he only loses $1 million, because I think his base salary for next season is just $1 million. So you've gone out of your way to protect Deshaun Watson. Now, I agree with you, Brian. Due process has to be served. And in this country, it really is you're innocent until proven guilty. So I have to go on that context. But where this is a sham for me, and I take it higher than the Browns and go to the NFL, how's everyone telling me or telling us in the media that they have done their due process and gone through and, investigated this at length? Yet, the attorney representing these 22 women or 22 cases, Tony Busby, is telling everyone none of these teams nor the league office contacted him or any of his 22 clients to hear what they had to say. I find that disturbing because what investigating could you have possibly have done without seeking out the testimony of the other side? Yeah, that's a sham. And then, as I said, like, you still haven't put down any possible punishment, and the Browns go out of their way to protect Deshaun Watson from losing money and give him more guaranteed money than the contract he already had from Houston. Guys, it was not like he was being paid peanuts or he was still on a rookie contract. This guy got a huge extension from from the Texans that could have carried over, and they added what? Brian, help me if I'm wrong. They added $80 million to that contract, right?
Yeah, they guaranteed that additional. That I'm with you. That's the thing. The protecting him is the kind of last straw, and the most guaranteed money ever by a wide margin, by 80 million, is like, this is football. That's a football move,
And obviously they don't get Deshaun Watson without doing that, as y'all said. Like, the reason that he came, like, I don't care what Deshaun tells me that Cleveland won because of the roster. And it is true, Cleveland does have the best roster of the teams that were vying for him. But it was about the money. It was all about the $230 million guaranteed and the fact that they made sure he would not lose much of it by backloading the contract and only putting $1 million in that first year. And there's one last point. Now, I do hope and pray for, you know what, I'm not going to go that far. I will say this, son, advice to quarterbacks looking at this, or any professional athlete. I don't know why any athlete would go to 22 different massage therapists. Because as a professional athlete, my body is the way I make my money. And as I talk to Marsh and I talk to Neil about this off camera, I tell them, me personally, my team has a licensed massage therapist. And then in the off season, if I need that work, I'm going to hire my own. Why would I need to go to 22 different massage therapists to possibly have one of them potentially mess up my body when that's the way I make my money? I would advise professional athletes going forward, stick to your team's massage therapist, hire your own, keep it professional. But guys, in bringing in Deshaun Watson and then the aforementioned Jacoby Brissett, it stands to reason that a certain person is on his way out. So Payton, obviously I mean Baker Mayfield, should any team know that the Browns are clearly going to trade Baker Mayfield, should anyone want the former 2019 number 1 overall pick?
Yes, at the right price and with the right amount of expectations. Baker Mayfield, at the end of the day, Baker Mayfield has accomplished something, and that is winning a playoff game on the road. There's something to be said about that. Now, we had all the help in the world. Like I said, with the Browns, a good offensive line, a good defense. But that game, like, tons of players were out with COVID. I think like 2 or 3 starting offensive linemen out with COVID. The head coach, Kevin Stefanski, wasn't there, COVID. And the Browns came out and won that game. So Baker Mayfield, he's not as horrendous as he may seem. He needs everything to be right when he's playing football is a thing. He's a lot like Tannehill. Everything was horrible in Miami. Tannehill looked horrible. He went to Tennessee. He got a good running game. And he panned out pretty well. But he needed a change of scenery. Baker Mayfield clearly needs a change of scenery, whether that's in Seattle or Carolina or wherever he may go. And it might even be as a backup, like Mitch did this year, where he left and he was a backup and now he's getting a chance to start again. He needs a change of scenery. Do I think that the Browns are going to get a second-round pick for him after Matt Ryan, a former league MVP, just got traded for a third-round pick? No. They'll be lucky to get a stale bag of Doritos for him. So we'll see what happens. But yes, teams are going to be slightly intrigued by Baker.
Brian, who should trade for Baker Mayfield? Because I'm going to preempt my question by telling you all I wouldn't trade for it. You're still on mute.
I wouldn't either, just because I'm not sure that the payoff is there, particularly because he's on that fifth-year option and he's going to be making like $20 million per year. It's that based on what happens this season, you're going to have to extend him. And it's like, what do you do if he fits in that gray area, which he's very likely to do? Like if, let's say he goes to Seattle, 22 touchdowns, 9, 10 interceptions, pretty efficient in that run-heavy offense. Like, then what do you do? What's the number for a Baker Mayfield then? Or do you get yourself in a contract dispute where all of a sudden you're having to franchise tag him and now you're paying him $40 million for the next year? Like, it just seems like you're putting yourself in a weird situation. I do think he's a starting caliber quarterback from the perspective of he's likely a top 32 quarterback. But we know that's not how the game is played. That's why rookies are brought in. That's why the Falcons signed to Marcus Mariota, the whole bridge quarterback kind of concept. I could see, and I think the best fit would be Seattle. If I'm Seattle, I wouldn't do it, but I could see them convincing themselves, all right, let's bring in Baker Mayfield. Let's have him and Drew Lock battle it out, and let's give this a one-year shot and see if we can turn some of those trade assets that we got for Russell Wilson in and just kind of quickly reboot as opposed to rebuild. And if it doesn't work out, okay, we'll just draft our quarterback next year. And I think that's the toughest part for Baker right now is that, yeah, he's been disappointing. But now I do honestly think that it's sliding the other way too far, that there's the teams for him. Carolina, like I get that they could use a quarterback, but especially from an ownership or like GM perspective, why would you bring him in when you have at least a somewhat similar thing in Sam Darnold, again, on the fifth-year option already? Like, are you really going to almost kind of risk saving Matt Rule's job for just 1 year to trap yourself for a couple? You know what I mean? Like, to me, if I was the Panthers, I wouldn't let Matt Rule draft a quarterback this year either. I would say, hey, you're stuck with Sam Darnold for another year. If you turn this around, like, oh, okay, now we could talk about drafting a quarterback next year. But I just don't see the landing spot for him. And then bringing him in as a backup is tough to see too. Like, who's going to bring in Baker Mayfield? One, the media kind of star that he is. He brings a certain cachet with him, as well as a $20 million 1-year contract as your backup quarterback. Like, the Steelers? Honestly, I hope he goes to the Steelers. If I got to pick a team, I'd pick the Steelers and say him and Trubisky battle it out. That would be good for just multiple reasons. But I don't know where the fit is for him.
I'm with you, because when I look at this, New Orleans just signed Jameis Winston, which I thought was the smart thing to do for them. Matt Ryan, as y'all just mentioned, is in Indianapolis. Is a spot outside of Seattle. Houston has, they're going to look at Davis Mills very, very closely. Where is the spot? And to steal a line from, Niels and one of my very good friends, yeah, this line I love now. The best indicator for future performance is past performance. And let's look at Baker's numbers, some of Baker's numbers. This guy already has 56 interceptions in his 5 years. And I want to see 48 of them came in 3 years. 48 interceptions came in 3 of those years. He has a completion percentage of 61.6. And I don't like putting wins and losses on quarterbacks, but a 29-30 record. These aren't staggering numbers to suggest to me that you're going someplace to turn a franchise around or to take a franchise like Seattle back into the playoffs when a half a season of Russell Wilson didn't even do that. As I said, if you're a contender, are you willing to give up draft capital for like a Baker Mayfield? The answer is no. And then even if you're not a contender, you want that draft capital to actually draft good players. You're not going to waste that on Baker Mayfield either. So wait, what are you going to do? Like, I'm a bad team. I'm looking to rebuild for the future. I want my draft capital. I'm not going to put that in Baker Mayfield. And Baker Mayfield's not going to put a contender over the top. So I'm not going to waste draft capital either. You are right, Brian. Where is the landing spot for Baker Mayfield? Like, Payton, like, do you have a team that you want to throw in here?
I don't know, because what is Baker Mayfield? He's not accurate. He turns the ball over at alarming rates. He's not a good game manager. He doesn't make good reads. He's not athletic. What is he? What is he other than funny and makes good commercials?
I was hoping for. This is the Baker. Keep coming.
But seriously, what does he do? What does he do? Because like you mentioned earlier, Justin, as a Browns fan, I've watched almost every single throw of Baker Mayfield's career. Okay? And let me tell you this. When Nick Chubb isn't in the backfield, when it's an empty backfield, and I know that we're going to have to throw the ball, this is my heart. I start sweating. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're about to turn the ball over. That just proves like why the Browns wanted to get Deshaun Watson despite all the question marks surrounding him. That just proves everything. And now they're asking for a second round pick. I actually just got a notification right as we started the show that the Browns were asking teams for a first round pick for Baker Mayfield. How?
Yeah, they have no leverage.
What does he do? What does he do? So, I mean, maybe you can go to Seattle and, be extremely underwhelming in a hard division. You know what I mean? Good luck, Baker Mayfield. Here's a team with no offensive line and Chris Carson who's made of glass. Good luck. You know what I mean? You have cool receivers, but, Seattle's not going to do anything for him. Pittsburgh isn't going to want him. And like Brian said, why would you bring in a guy to be a backup when he's going to get more media attention than your starting quarterback? You don't want that. So, no, I can't name a team. And this is even more. The Falcons chose Marcus Mariota over him. Marcus Mariota, with all due respect, is not that good. He's proven that he's not that good. You know what I mean? So, no, I can't name a team that would want Baker Mayfield, to be honest with you.
So we aren't buying into the hype that, like, now Baker's pissed off. Now he's motivated. Now he's ready to go.
No, not at all.
We saw that coming into the league, and what did that help?
And wait, I want to publicly apologize because I remember when I was making podcasts, me and Brian had many conversations about Baker Mayfield. Brian, I have never been more wrong about something in my life than I was about Baker Mayfield, okay? I thought that he could be just average. I was wrong. This dude almost cost us a game against Detroit last year. So, there's the crown. You win the Baker Mayfield argument. It's finally settled. I'm burying the hatchet. It's done.
Hey, we've all had major misses. I'm still holding on to the last shred of Sam Darnold stock until he's actually buried. I'm just holding on to a little bit, but I do have the team. Here's the team for Baker Mayfield, actually. And I actually do think this would be perfect. It's the Houston Gamblers, the USFL. Baker would be awesome. He would be awesome in the USFL, like as their lead man. I think that would be good. He just might be a couple years away.
Oh, don't be surprised, Brian, if it's this season. Unfortunately, what also happened this season, speaking of very poor segues, is that I didn't lose my quarterback. I didn't lose my running back. I happened to lose my star wide receiver that I didn't expect or see coming. And by mine, I obviously mean the Green Bay Packers and the best wide receiver in the league in Davante Adams. Can't believe it. I'm glad I'm not starting with this one. Brian, help me through the pain here. So sorry. Is anyone to blame within the franchise for Davante Adams not wanting to stay in Green Bay? Because the reports are that the Packers actually offered more than what the Las Vegas Raiders gave him in contract compensation. So is anyone to blame?
I don't think anybody's really to blame. I know you're probably thinking I was just going to slam Aaron Rodgers, but I don't think he's to blame. I just think it is a little bit of knock on him that Davante Adams wouldn't want to continue playing with him, as they've been basically the best quarterback wide receiver duo. Aaron Rodgers is absolutely awesome, and the Packers were the better team. The fact that he wanted to leave that, I don't think you blame Aaron Rodgers or LaFleur or the front office. I think it's honestly a lot to do with just Green Bay, to be quite honest with you. And then just more, it's a little bit of an indictment that he, this many years removed, still felt that much closer to Derek Carr than he did to Aaron Rodgers, again, on a professional level. But I don't think you blame the Packers. And my overall takeaway here, anyways, is the Packers are going to be good. Like, they're going to be really good. I know I had to talk you off the ledge last year going into the season. They're like, no, the Packers are going to be really good. They're going to be really good this year, too. And honestly, it's probably better for them. Maybe not this year, but in 2-3 years, it's probably going to be better for them. The Packers draft well. I still think they're going to bring in a veteran wide receiver, and then they're going to draft a wide receiver in either the first or the second round. And the wide receiver classes, they've been so stacked for like 5 years now that they're going to hit on somebody. It seems like every single year we say this is the best wide receiver class ever. I think Green Bay is going to be fine. They realistically somewhere had to give with the cap space. This is a maybe inconvenient way of getting there. But I think if you're a Packers fan, it hurts because Davante Adams, in my opinion, is the best receiver in the league. They had such a great kind of chemistry. But do you really want to pay a receiver like $30 million a year? I don't think so. Now, the one thing I will kind of combat that with, walk back just a little bit, is for the Raiders side here. Realistically, it's a 3-year deal. Like, realistically, it's a 3-year deal. And then when he's 32, I would be shocked if it's not at least a restructured contract at that point.
Same thing, Payton. Is there anyone to blame, or did the Packers just not stand a chance of keeping Davante Adams?
I don't think they stood the chance. I don't think there's anyone to blame in the situation. Like Brian mentioned, I think it does say something about Rodgers, though, that you're a back-to-back MVP, a Super Bowl champion, and Davante Adams didn't really click with you. You know what I mean? Like, he chose his college buddy over you, which, obviously, like, him and Derek Carr, I'm sure they had a great relationship and stuff, and I'm sure they maintained that into the league. But you're Aaron Rodgers, bro. People should be like knocking on the door. I don't care that it's Green Bay. They should be knocking on the door to get to catch passes from you, like they do with Brady. You know what I mean? So it does say a little bit something to him, but he's always been kind of like flaky and like weird anyways. Like, we can't really ever get a real read on him. Seems kind of arrogant sometimes, but that seems a little bit like, I think it pushes people away. But anyways, I wouldn't blame Aaron Rodgers for it. At the end of the day, Davante Adams wanted a long-term deal. The Raiders wanted to give him that. The Packers didn't. And I guess maybe he wanted to be with his college buddy. I guess some players get the itch to just leave and try something new. I feel like that's what happened with Davante.
So I think there's a marketing or communication spot open in the Green Bay franchise. So I try to temper my thoughts or words in terms of, constantly attacking them, because I would love nothing than to work within the Packers organization. But being honest, I think y'all guys are correct. In a way, I think Davante just really did want to play with his old college buddy. And let's be honest, I live here. No one chooses Wisconsin over anywhere else in the United States, especially the West Coast. This is not a free agent destination. And I get that he's played 8 years, but let's be honest. If you had a chance or a choice of going and living in Las Vegas or Wisconsin, you're going to take Las Vegas every single day. And there is one pushback I will give here, and towards both the organization and Aaron Rodgers a little bit. No, again, I really want to work in the Packers organization, so I'm going to just tone it down a bit here. to be honest, I understand where they were getting from. I understand both sides. So the reports suggest to me that Davante was kind of annoyed and upset that they had a chance to do this contract all of last season and they didn't. And I think that's kind of the tipping point for him. I understand the organization's position simply because everything hinged on Aaron Rodgers. And you're not going to want to pay a wide receiver $30 million if Aaron Rodgers walks through the door. Like, that makes no sense. So I get that everything hinged on Aaron Rodgers, and that's why they didn't, extend or pay him all of last season. That doesn't make it any better for the wide receiver to hear that. And as much as he may want to have gone to Las Vegas, as much as there's a draw to play with his old college roommate, I don't see a scenario that the Green Bay Packers during last season offer him $30 million a season and he turns that down. I can't for the life, because he won't know what it is up there on the open market. I can't see him turning that down. No, I can't knock the organization, but I think the organization, in hindsight, and of course hindsight is always 50-50, if they were thinking this through and knew what was going to come, they could have signed him during the season, even if they didn't know Rodgers was returning, signed him to that contract, and show Rodgers, hey, we've signed your favorite target. This is an additional reason for you to stay. And even if he bolts, then you can trade Davante Adams, because look how fast Las Vegas was to pick up Davante Adams to keep up in that AFC West arms race. Now, of course, they could not have known beforehand that the AFC West would have had that arms race, but teams are always desperate to win, and I'm sure somebody would have bid at Davante Adams in his prime. Yeah, the contract was a bit much, but I think they could have gotten him traded if they found out that Aaron Rodgers wasn't going to stay. Aaron Rodgers' hands are not exactly clean here either, and here's well explained. Remember, this entire saga starts because Aaron Rodgers says he is not, talked to, is not consulted about certain decisions because he feels he can attract people to come to Wisconsin, which is not true. Like, no one comes here. How then are you telling the front office they don't consult you in attracting people to come, and yet you are not even able to keep one of your own teammates in-house? That looks bad. Like, you're telling people, I can get people to come, yet you are not even able to keep a receiver who you have made the best receiver in the NFL. You're not even able to convince him to stay. And if the reports are supposedly true, this looks even worse, because apparently Rodgers and Davante Adams had absolutely no contact through this entire offseason. That is a bad look. Because even if you don't know whether you're staying or not, the moment that you're trending towards Green Bay, don't you make a call to the best wide receiver, the guy who has helped you catch all these touchdowns, and say, hey, I'm probably leaning towards staying. Let's run this back, because the NFC is not as strong as the AFC, and we can possibly win this. And again, that's not Aaron Rodgers' job per se. His job is to be the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, throw touchdowns, and get as much money as possible. But this is on him, because he did say he should be consulted at getting people in the building. So then it should also be your job to convince people to stay in the building. I don't know if there's anything y'all wanted to add to that.
I do have to disagree. I think it would have been, honestly, like, just full-blown insane if they would have signed Davante Adams to that kind of contract if they didn't know that Aaron Rodgers was coming back. I think that would really kind of tank them. Although I will say, I do think going back a year, they knew Aaron Rodgers was coming back. I think that was Aaron Rodgers making a big stink in the media, but I think they always knew, like, he's going to be back. He's going to be playing for us. We have 2 years on the deal. We're not trading him. we know he's not going to retire. Like, he was 37, just won an MVP. Like, we know he's coming back. So I get that sort of thing. And I get that a team would have wanted to trade for him. I think that's all true. But if they actually had signed him to a deal, then they would have to deal with the dead cap number if they traded him. And I think that's kind of the knock on that side of things. But it's definitely not a good look for the Packers because you know better than any of us, but the Packers struggle to get free agents, to say the least. And when you lose a guy that you drafted that's been there forever and you offered him the most money and he still leaves as your team is winning and doing really well and his stats are great, like everything, what could you have done better football wise to still lose them? With offering the contract is definitely a bad look. It probably makes Green Bay fans feel a little bit hopeless, but I don't know that a big-time wide receiver is the number one key to winning a championship, especially the number one paid guy. Can we just take one step back? Like, do we know, I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but the top paid receivers are like Davante Adams. It's like DeAndre Hopkins. That hadn't really worked out all that well, even though they only traded like David Johnson for him. That's got to make you feel good that you guys got a first and second for Davante Adams, where the Texans got David Johnson for DeAndre Hopkins. But like Michael Thomas, Amari Cooper's towards the top, like Christian Kirk's making 21 mil. Like, I don't know that that's really the recipe. Like, you want great weapons, but I'm not sure that that's really kind of the way to do it.
Go ahead, Payton. A team that you want to get in?
I don't know. I agree. Like, if it came down to you could only keep Rodgers or Adams, you're keeping Rodgers. You know what I mean? In the NFL today, the passing is so high powered that like you can make serviceable receivers. Like, as this is Aaron Rodgers we're talking about here. Just get guys that could get open. He's gonna find them. You know what I mean? So this might be a blessing in disguise kind of thing maybe for Green Bay, that they don't have to pay him this humongous deal. And they don't have to, because like Brian mentioned, a lot of these high paid receivers, they're good, but it's not working out well for the team that they're on. So with that being said, you go and draft guys that are young and have a lot of potential. Receivers translate well to the NFL out of the draft now. Like Justin Jefferson and all these other guys, Jamar Chase, they come in and they're instantly studs. Even Jalen Waddle in a Miami offense that is dull as could be, put up good big numbers. He set the single season reception record for rookie wide receivers. There's tons of guys out there that you can draft and help push you over the top in the NFC. And you don't have to pay them $140 million a year. Or not a year. I mean, I'm sorry, but total. You know what I mean? So it might be a blessing in a disguise kind of thing for Green Bay.
Even Devontae Smith playing with somebody like Jalen Hurts put up big numbers. But guys, it still means that the Packers have to address their wide receiver room, because what is left back is not pretty right now. So Brian, how do these Packers replace or fill the void, or make up for the loss of Davante Adams?
Well, I think one name that I've seen people point to that I think is about a 0% chance, and hey, I could be wrong, but is Odell Beckham Jr. I think that would be awesome for Odell and for Aaron Rodgers, but like, I would be shocked to see Odell Beckham Jr. go to Green Bay, Wisconsin. Like, shocked. I don't see that happening.
Especially after he turned us down just shortly.
Yeah, he already
between us and the Rams, and I knew he wasn't coming.
No doubt. And honestly, in a similar way, but with Julio Jones, honestly, just from like an injury perspective, like, unfortunately, he's been hurt, and he's even throughout his career, it's a lot of some ankle stuff and some hamstring stuff. You probably want to avoid Siberia up there in Wisconsin. Like, you probably want to avoid that. So I could see him, I put out floated. Maybe he goes to Tampa Bay, and that'll really get people riled up. But I still think that there are some options for him veteran-wise. I think Jarvis Landry would be perfect for them, and then draft a wide receiver. It's tough to tell who's going to shake out. I think it would be perfect for them if they were able to bring in Jarvis Landry, and then we're able to draft Drake London or Treylon Burks. An explosive big receiver to pair with Jarvis Landry, I think would be awesome. And I really do, kind of like Payton was saying too, I've always believed like quarterbacks make the receivers. Like, there are receivers, don't get me wrong, they're great on their own. But like quarterbacks, they make it happen. You really can. They get by with anything. We've seen Aaron Rodgers do it. We've seen Tom Brady do it. These guys are not, they're not just good quarterbacks. They're all-time greats. It'll be fine. But I do think they're going to end up with solid receiving options. Where the question mark will probably come in is the depth, because they have Lazard. Is MVS for sure coming back?
Well, that's the thing. Now that we have the cap space, without spending that big money on Davante Adams, he is the primary, because he's a free agent. So they are really, really trying to get him to come back in the building, and there has been no word on a contract as yet.
All right. Well, either way, he brings a nice speed. I know he has his issues as well. But I think Jarvis Landry, spend a high draft pick, they'll be good to go. I know they brought Tunyon back. The run game is great. And as much as people maybe don't realize, I know we've talked about it, their offense is based on the run game first. It is. It's just they have Aaron Rodgers, so it obviously looks much different and much better than Jimmy G back there. But it's the same kind of deal that we're looking at. It's the same as what Baker Mayfield was in and Kirk Cousins is in. It's all from the same tree. It's just Aaron Rodgers, so obviously it's the best version of that.
I agree. The only thing, I agree with everything you said. Wide receivers don't make quarterbacks, but I think Davante Adams on his own, because there are two things that separate him in my estimation. And number one thing is that release. No one in the NFL has that release off the line. Like, I sit down and watch videos of it, and it was so hard when he announced his departure. I watched videos of his release. God, that thing is amazing. And obviously then with the release, he is so intelligent as to change routes at the line, and he picks up all right, this guy defended me this way. This is what we're going to do, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, wide receivers don't make quarterbacks. So yeah, Payton, how do the Packers now improve their now stunted wide receiver room?
I think that the Packers shouldn't be looking for a stud, but just a nice group. Because right now, other than Allen Lazard on the roster, it's looking pretty shaky. And I have a list here of available free agent wide receivers that are still on the market. Julio Jones, like Brian mentioned, but with injuries, he might cost a little bit too much too. Jarvis Landry, I think, is a really good option. I think that he still has some life left. I think that he sadly had Baker Mayfield for his quarterback the past few years, and the passing numbers in that offense in Cleveland aren't high powered. Will Fuller, I think, has a little bit left in the tank, and I don't think that the Packers would have to give up too much for him. However, the Browns are probably interested in him and reuniting him with Deshaun Watson. Another one I think is interesting is Cole Beasley. He's kind of underrated, but a guy in the slot that could just move the chains. I think that would be a good option for the Packers to have, especially since Jamison Crowder signed with Buffalo today. So it looks like Cole Beasley's on his way out.
I don't think the Packers want to deal with another unvaccinated guy. I'm sure they don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, that's true. So, but the list goes on. I mean, AJ Green, Sammy Watkins. I mean, there's guys that are available that are veterans that can fill the room with just hands, I guess, that can move the chains. But like I mentioned, you're Aaron Rodgers, bro. You have to like elevate the play of your receivers in a way. You know what I mean? That's what I think that's a trait that all great quarterbacks possess. So I guess find one in the draft and have a couple two solid guys on the free agent market that are veterans, and I'm not too worried about it if I'm the Packers.
After a couple of days of letting this breathe, I think I've come back down, and yeah, Brian talked me off the ledge a bit. So I've let us breathe a bit. So the obvious thing is the Packers are not rebuilding. They're not exactly retooling. They're here trying to win now. Like, we'll spend money on Rich Bisaccia, the former interim coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, as your special teams coach. It is clear you're going out to win. You give Rodgers that big contract, bring back Devondre Campbell and Rasul Douglas. Like, you're obviously looking to win now. I say that to say the first thing, you have to get MVS back in the building. Like, you have to try your utmost best. You don't overpay, but you need somebody with an existing connection with Rodgers. And I think you start there. You have to bring him back in the building. I think you also take some of that draft capital you just got, because I want to say they have a fair amount of draft capital in this year's draft. Pull it together, move up, and get the guy, is it Jameson Williams from Alabama? Yeah, I think you need the first or second best wide receiver in this draft class, because it's all nice to say draft for depth, but the Packers have that right now. You need a piece that's going to help you to win immediately, and you don't want just a serviceable wide receiver. I agree with you guys. This class is deep, and you can find somebody, but I think you want the best in the class. And if you don't pull to move up to get the dude from Alabama, yeah, guys, I'm about to say this is going to shock y'all. I think Seattle is on a bit of a fire sale that's no one really is talking about. And I think you target either DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett. I think you go after one of those two, because you're going to need a veteran to help you to win. I don't know if there are rookies who are going to be able to manage your expectations at this very moment, although Jamar Chase proved me wrong. But I think I hear you about Julio and Odell, but just as past performance is a good indicator for future performance, past injury is a great indicator for future injury. And I am against trading for injured players. Julio, I think, is past his best due date. Odell, no, that's what, 2 or 3 on 2 injuries on the same knee. I am not exactly expecting him to have the same explosion. So my thing is, get MVS back in the building, move up to get the dude from Alabama, or trade for Tyler Lockett / DK Metcalf. I'd prefer DK Metcalf, bigger body, but I like Tyler Lockett, the more intelligent of the 2 receivers, for a lack of a better term. But guys, in speaking of Davante Adams, he is just one piece of what has become a ridiculously wild AFC West arms race. And in that, I mean, let me see if I can remember all. Davante Adams and Chandler Jones have gone to Las Vegas Raiders. Denver Broncos took up Russell Wilson and I want to say Randy Gregory. In Kansas City, they just signed Juju Smith-Schuster, and the Chargers have signed everyone else that was on the free agent market, including trading for Khalil Mack and also getting J.C. Jackson. Payton, I see you're shaking your head already, so I'm going to start with you with this massive arms race in the AFC West. Rank the teams. List them in order from 1 to 4 or 4 to 1.
I think the problem with the AFC West is that in my head, I'm trying to justify a way that all 4 of them can make the playoffs, and I can't. I don't think it's possible. The mathematics just don't work. One of them is going to be the odd man out. And as of right now, Denver. I have Denver at 4, Las Vegas at 3, LA at 2, and the Chiefs still at the top at number 1. The reason being, I know the coaching and quarterback duo in Kansas City works. I know their offense works. I've seen it. It's familiar. Now they're losing a big piece on defense in Tyrann Mathieu, who is a free agent right now. So that's definitely going to hurt them. But I always have this saying, like, you have to, it's not my saying, okay? A million people in the world have said it, so let me take that back. All right, I'm going to sound like an idiot. You have to beat the best to be the best. As of right now, the Chiefs have ruled that division, and I have no reason to believe that they won't continue to do so. So that's why I have them at 1. Now, the Chargers, I think they are about to take the training wheels off this year. This is going to be Justin Herbert's second year in Brandon Staley's offense. And now they acquired all the pieces that they needed on defense. I think they're going to take big improvements, and they're going to win a lot more of those close games. We'll see if Brandon Staley, makes more of those questionable fourth down attempts this year, and maybe he, trims up some of those and they win more of those close games, but we'll see. I think they're going to take a big step. And then the Raiders, getting Chandler Jones, getting Davante Adams. How do you guard that offense now? You have Davante Adams, you have Darren Waller, and you have Hunter Renfrow, who is a pretty solid receiver in his own right. And you have Josh Jacobs. But the rookie head coach is what does it for me. Josh McDaniels. I know he's been a head coach before, but this is a new head coach on a new team, and it takes some time to gel. And in this division, in the AFC conference as well, you don't have time anymore to gel, because the teams you're going to be playing are high level and ready to compete week 1. So that's why I have them at 3. And then same thing with the Broncos. First year head coach. Now you have a new quarterback who I think is fantastic in Russell Wilson, but the defense I don't think is as good as the other teams. And the receivers, while they're great, I don't think the receiving core on Denver is better than the receiving core in Kansas City. I don't think that it's better than the receiving core in Las Vegas. And you can argue that it's not better than Mike Williams and Keenan Allen in Los Angeles. So with that being said, I think Russ inherited the worst team in that division. So that's why I have that pecking order.
Brain, same question, like, how do you stack these teams?
Yeah, it's tough. There's a lot of talented rosters. I would go with the Chiefs, number 1. I know the Chargers have made all the flashy moves, but we can't forget who the Chargers are. So to me, it's still Chiefs, number 1. They have Patrick Mahomes. They have Andy Reid. We could go on, but that's the duo, and that gets them the division. Number 2, I am going to go with the Chargers. They've gone all in to win now on Justin Herbert's rookie contract. I do think Justin Herbert is a great quarterback. The defense should be at least above average. We know, free agent moves this time of year are all perfect. They all, Khalil Mack, he's going back to 15 sacks. J.C. Jackson, of course, he's getting double-digit interceptions. But even if those do kind of regress to the mean a little bit, this should be at least an average defense. I think you give the Chargers an average defense with the offense they have going, that's a playoff team. I think the Denver Broncos would be 3rd. I love Russell Wilson. I think he's going to be a great fit in that offense that I assume Nathaniel Hackett is bringing over from that larger Shanahan tree. They have Javonte Williams. Their offense is really set to go. But I am with Payton Doyle that the receiver room, I think, is a little bit overstated. Like, they have some promising young guys, but that's different than I think what like the Chiefs have or even what the Raiders have. The defense, and I'm with him on the defense a little bit too. Not that they aren't good, but I think they're being overstated right now, where there's some of their DVO rankings and whatnot that's really they were above average. They weren't elite kind of defense. But at the end of the day, you got to give them props. Points per game given up is the most important stat. It's just, can they duplicate it? But I'll go with them number 3. And then 4th comes the Raiders. Things happen from the top down. They do. It's not flashy to say, but that's why the same organizations typically win and the same organizations typically lose. And the Raiders, I don't believe in them. I love Derek Carr, to be quite honest with you, and Davante Adams, Hunter Renfrow. Like, they have some of my favorite players. but their defense is a little bit lacking, in my opinion, even though they brought in Chandler Jones. He's got to stay healthy. But then in particular, it starts with the ownership, and then Josh McDaniels. I am not a believer. I'm not a believer at all. And this is a stacked division. So I'm not even saying they're going to be awful, but they can be a good team and go 8-9 this year, especially in that division. So the Raiders got to wrap it up and last for me.
So guys, hold my beer while I shock y'all with this one. So I'm in agree. I have the Raiders in the cellar basement, simply because, as you said correctly, organizations are what they are, and you just can't get away from it. I don't believe in ownership, and I hell well don't believe in Josh McDaniels. I've seen what happened in Denver already with him. I'm just not a believer. Whatever he's taken, and we've seen all of Bill Belichick's coaching tree. And outside of Brian Flores, it looks bad. I think that offense is really great. Derek Carr is underrated. You have Hunter Renfrow, Davante Adams, and Darren Waller with Josh Jacobs. I think that offense is great. But with the moves that the AFC West have done defensively, not named Kansas City, they've got some catching up to do. I just don't like organization. As Brian said, there's a reason why certain organizations win, and there's a reason why certain organizations lose. That's the Chicago Bears, all about that. Number 3 is where it gets shocking. If we talk about bad organizations, why do we pretend that the LA Chargers are a good one? Like, there is a thing, they're going to charge up the place. And for all of the free agent moves that they've done, and we all have known, no team wins a title in free agency. Not sure if LA Chargers got the memo. But as much as moves that they've gone to prepare or improve their defense, guys, what's the one problem they had on defense last year? If there was one, what was it? Help me out.
Run defense.
No. Remind me. Is Khalil Mack a run stopper? No. Is JT Jackson coming in the backfield to tackle running backs? No. Their issue is stopping the run. And they have done absolutely nothing in free agency to address that problem. Go ahead, Payton. It's you.
Okay, but if you're going to spend money, right, you're playing football in the most prolific passing era in the history of the sport. Why would you not spend the most money on a guy that's going to rush the passer and a guy that's going to potentially clamp down a wide receiver that's going to be in the passing game? Rush defense is important. Don't get me wrong. Right. Rush defense is extremely important. But I feel like in today's day and age, and you look at the division that you're playing in, the Chiefs, high-powered offense, the Raiders are going to try to be a high-powered offense, and now Denver's going to try to be an offensive team. That's why it's more relative for them rather than their actual need.
And I'm with you, but I come from watching Green Bay Packers football, and we don't attract free agents. So I know free agency doesn't win you anything. So I'm saying just don't spend that big money in free agency, period. Because we've seen time and time again, the people who win free agency never win the Super Bowl or even win playoff games. I don't see it necessary to go after JC Jackson. I understand the division you are in. But to your point, Payton, I'm going to show you. You all remember that the Chargers were just one play away from making the playoffs. And guys, what happened? All they needed to do was A, not call a timeout, by the way, and B, stop a simple running play they knew were happening. Brandon Staley not only calls timeout, he apparently puts his base run defense on the field and still couldn't stop the run. And they were not able to make the playoffs just because of that. And by the way, and I know Brian has been on Twitter talking about this, Brandon Staley is an awful head coach. An awful head coach. And it goes past just the fourth down decisions. This guy is terrible. And that game against the Raiders told me all I needed to know about Brandon Staley. This is the guy who got more than the credit he deserved for that Los Angeles Rams defense. That it was just players on the field. I know you're giving him another defense or another set of good players. Mm-mm. So for my next shocker, guys, number 2, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. And the reason I have the Chiefs at number 2 is because this is a bad defense that is getting worse and worse by the day. One of your only good defensive linchpins you have not brought back in free agency in the Honey Badger. I don't know what you're going to look like against the rest of the division. Let me say this, by the way. Y'all guys are more likely more right than I am being right. Because I can see a situation again. You have the head coach, Andy Reid, a historically good one. You have a historically great quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. I don't see a situation why they don't win the AFC West, but I didn't want to make it 3 in a row going with the Chiefs winning the AFC West. And guys, that leaves the Denver Broncos. And the reason I'm so high on the Denver Broncos is not just Russell Wilson, but let me state the obvious. This is a guy who's been to 2 Super Bowls, won 1, and I think he is the 3rd best quarterback all time in terms of touchdown to interception ratio. This guy just wins football games in whatever situation he is. And I mean, this division shouldn't, overwhelm him because he's coming from the NFC West. Arguably the best division before the AFC West became this hotbed. He's not going to fear playing against these guys. And unlike outside of Patrick Mahomes, he's the only other guy to have won something other than Patrick Mahomes in this division. But I think y'all are underselling how good that defense was. In a division that featured the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Raiders, that defense gave up less than 19 points a game with an offense that could not even sustain drives. You know how hard it is every time you're looking around. Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater are your quarterbacks, and you're back on the field again to face Patrick Mahomes, to face Derek Carr, to face Justin Herbert, and somehow playing 6 games against that division and the Cowboys and the Bengals, you were able to give up just less than 19 points a game. You're returning Bradley Chubb, you're returning Justice Simmons, you're returning the kid from Alabama. I absolutely love Patrick Surtain. I think you're all underselling defense. The only thing is, again, Nathaniel Hackett is a first-year head coach, and Vic Fangio is no longer there, and that's a key point. But the players are there, guys. I think Denver, KC, LA, and Las Vegas in that order, but I'm crazy, so what do I know?
But I do think, I'm glad you brought that point at the very end. I think the biggest part of that defense left. So they're going to have to respond without Vic Fangio. But again, you are right that they have the players to do it. It's just going to be an adjustment.
I feel like something needs to be said about this division is that if you told me that you could probably give me a legitimate reason why any 4 of those teams can possibly win it. You know what I mean? That's just a testament to how great of a division we're talking about here. When we're putting teams last in this division, they're still good enough to win like the AFC South. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're all potentially playoff teams that could have a winning record and still be last in their division. So, I mean, I don't think the Broncos are the best team just because, like Brian said, that their defense was really good last year, but the mind behind it all is gone. You know what I mean? And we don't know how the first-year head coach is going to come in. The whole division there is almost all offensive-minded, and a lot of offensive-minded head coaches, they're not all like Sean McVay, and they're not all like Kyle Shanahan. A lot of them flop, and a lot of them tend to get carried away and get ahead of themselves. You know what I mean? Like Brandon Staley, let's be honest, he gets ahead of himself sometimes. So with that being said, I still have more faith in Kansas City just because I can fathom it. I know for a fact that they're good. There's less question marks with them as opposed to the other teams.
I'll say this, and I agree with your point on coaches. I trust Nathaniel Hackett. Obviously, it's biased because I've seen him the last 2 years in Green Bay. But I saw, from Syracuse, and wherever he goes, this guy has a magic touch, and it's relationship with players and guys. Like, I can't think. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is great, but Aaron Rodgers and Brian will tell you the 2-3 years prior to Nathaniel Hackett getting there were kind of down years for Aaron Rodgers. Nathaniel Hackett comes back-to-back MVPs. Coincidence? Think not. Guys, to close up, there was news not too long before this show started that the Colts finally got their guy under center. I think the 5th starting quarterback in 5 years in Matt Ryan. So, Brian, you like quarterbacks, but do you like Indy trading for Matt Ryan?
I do. Definitely for a 3rd-round pick. As a Titans fan, I'm a little upset. I think they got completely bailed out by the Falcons, who it seems like alienated Matt Ryan and that relationship by pursuing Deshaun Watson. And because of the Colts, we all know their roster is good. Like, speaking of all these AFC teams, like the offensive line, the running game, their defense, all good. And it looked like they had completely just imploded by, I think, personally, and there's been some reports, but Jim Irsay was just so upset by how the season ended that he was like, you have to get Carson Wentz out of here. And there's been some reports that Carson Wentz isn't exactly the most well-liked guy. Anyways, it seemed like a kind of panicked move, just get him out of here with no plan. Like, they had, like, I get Carson Wentz has his flaws, but they did pretty good with him, and they got rid of him without any plan, in my opinion. Like, what was the plan? And so, to me, it is a good move for them. Matt Ryan is going to be 37. I get the downside, but to me, this was by far the best case scenario for them. Once they traded Carson Wentz, it was either what? I mean, Baker Mayfield wasn't even available at that point. So you're talking about maybe hoping that the 49ers are actually going to trade Jimmy G, which I don't think they're going to do. And then you're in the Mariota, Minshew kind of sweepstakes. So I think if you're a Colts fan, this is kind of best case scenario.
And we do have a Colts fan in chat. Like, he just put Matt Ryan in all caps, so he's pleased. Are you pleased, Payton, with this move?
I am. I think they got a former league MVP at a good price. A lot of people don't remember that Matt Ryan is a former league MVP, and he should be mentioned as he is. You know what I mean? And he had a 28 to 3-point lead in the Super Bowl. You know he can get there. And honestly, that's the last time that he had any kind of running game that was notable or any kind of defense that was somewhat notable. It's good for Atlanta to move on. They clearly needed to find someone younger than Matt Ryan. And clearly the situation wasn't going to get better with Matt Ryan. They needed to move on. Indianapolis, for what was on the table, I think they got the best available guy. Because you're looking at, like Brian said, Matt Ryan, then you got Jimmy G. And then other than that, it's like Jameis was on the table at one point, but we just don't know. But we know Matt Ryan is a quality quarterback. We know that he was in a bad situation in Atlanta, and now you're bringing him into a team with a solid offensive line, a really, really good run game, and a decent defense. However, with that being said, it could be way better. The defense could be way better, but it's much better than Atlanta. But I don't think that the defense is all that there in Indianapolis. But with all that being said, the Colts have to win their division. They're not going to get a wild card. And so that's why you go all out on a veteran quarterback like Matt Ryan. And my guy Joe in the chat here, I think they're going to win the division, but it doesn't make them contenders. You're going to be solid for 2 years, and then you're still going to be scrambling for a quarterback. You know what I mean? So I don't know. If I was the Colts, I probably would have looked towards the future. Obviously, this year is not great for quarterbacks, but you brought Matt Ryan in at a good price. I'm for the deal for what was available, but does it elevate them that much? I don't know.
I'll say this. I'm a fan of Matt Ryan, and I actually think this deal it's 1 year too late. Because I thought with what Indianapolis has, with that run game, as you all said, Jonathan Taylor is amazing. With the decent wide receiver core they have, I like the defense even more than Payton. I thought they were just a quarterback away. And don't mean winning it all, but a quarterback away from making noise. And I thought last year they should have targeted two guys, if not Matt Stafford and Matt Ryan. And for whatever reason, Frank Reich and his infinite wisdom thought he could rehab Carson Wentz. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, history of the tape shows me that MVP caliber season that Carson Wentz had is more of a fluke, and what we have seen around is basically what Carson Wentz is. Yeah, I thought this is 1 year too late, especially know that the AFC West is what it is. Yeah, you're in the AFC South, so the first thing is always to deal with your division and look elsewhere. But the AFC North and AFC West are on cocaine right now. And yeah, this is a year too late because everyone else has just gone up. You just had to move on from Carson Wentz. Sorry, Brian. And the reason I say that, look at the end of the regular season. They had one win to get in their last two games just to get in. And do you know what Carson Wentz combined numbers were? Let me tell you. In those two games, they needed to at least win one. Carson Wentz went a combined 33 of 56 for 333 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. When they needed to have it the most. That's not going to cut it. And at the very least, I know Matt Ryan is likely not going to turn over the football. Yes, he's not the same MVP winning quarterback he was in, I want to say, 2014 or 2015. But as much as he's on the downward arc of his career, do you know since 2016, Matt Ryan has the most total yards in the entire NFL and is 5th in touchdown passes in that span? I bet y'all guys didn't know that. And for as bad or as we're talking about he's lost something, I think on average since 2016, he is throwing 27 touchdowns and 11 interceptions a season. That is more than serviceable. You can win with that, especially with your running game and your elite defense. Guys, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add.
I think it's just a case of, the devil's advocate is point to Carson Wentz's stats, which are good. But like you brought up the situational play and, what's usually talked about in terms of a pro for a player, does that guy have it? It's like for Carson Wentz, it's the opposite. It's like whatever it is, he doesn't have it. And that's why it makes sense to move to a Matt Ryan. But I am with you. It seems like probably a year too late for them to realistically make some noise. Jonathan Taylor's going to have to duplicate what he did last year, and that defense is going to have to duplicate what they did in terms of turning over the football. This move was all about dependability, in my opinion. And you can depend on Matt Ryan, even if it's not for like elite level play. You kind of know what you're getting. His nickname is Matty Ice for being clutch. It's kind of, in a way, it's the anti-Carson Wentz type of quarterback.
And another thing, every team in the league wanted to be the Colts. In Week 18, all you had to do was beat a one-win Jacksonville Jaguars team. That's an absolute shambles. You have to go to Jacksonville and win a football game to make the playoffs. If you asked every other NFL GM and head coach, what is the team that you'd want to play to make the playoffs, every single one of them is going to tell you, I would want to play the Jacksonville Jaguars. They all wanted to be the Colts. And Wentz,
I think except the Colts, though.
Yes, because
a little history lesson, the Jacksonville is the kryptonite for the Colts. Who knows why? But they're literally like 0-7 in their last 7 games. It might be 1-6 in their last 6 or 7 games in Jacksonville.
I think they've lost their last 14 trips to Jacksonville. By the way, I think it's that bad.
I don't know about 14. That's
they've lost
14 years of losing in Jacksonville. There's no way for 14 years.
I'm going to check it now, so continue talking. But
okay, I know. Listen, I know about the losing streak in Jacksonville, but at the end of the day, every team wanted to be in that situation. Beat Jacksonville, and you're in the playoffs. And Carson Wentz fell astronomically short of doing that. Like it was almost like he didn't show up to play. And as the leader of the team, as the quarterback, as the leader of the team, the rest of the team looked like they were just dead. From the moment the kickoff started, the team wasn't energized. The team wasn't ready to play. And I look at the signal caller and the leader of the team and say, dude, that's the type of stuff that costs you a job. Matt Ryan, I know that Matt Ryan would be ready to play against Jacksonville in Week 18 if the opportunity arose.
Keep talking, guys. I'm not exactly finding it here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not quite sure it's 14, but I do know, like, they've had the 5 starters in 5 years and all of that. Like, I know Jacksonville had the Colts numbers when they had Andrew Luck. They got him with Phillip Rivers. Like, they've got him with everybody somehow. But, yeah, I'm with you. And it was, to be fair, it was much more than Carson Wentz that failed miserably the last 2 games, and particularly in Jacksonville. But, yeah, like, if you're expected to be the franchise quarterback, you win in spite of those things. Like, yeah, the flat start. Yeah, the weird, like, fumbled snap kind of deal. But then you rebound because, like, this is a playoff game, and we need it, and this is Jacksonville that we're playing. Like, you have to overcome adversity. And unfortunately for him in his career, he hasn't exactly performed well in adversity, specifically consistently. And that's what makes greatness, is consistency. Yeah, you got it now, Justin?
Yes, I knew there was a 14 involved. The Indianapolis Colts have not won in Jacksonville since 2014. I know there was a 14 somewhere, which isn't really that much better. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Go ahead, sorry, Payton.
But it's a new team every year. They shouldn't have that on their minds. Like, oh my gosh, we haven't beat Jacksonville since 20. None of the players know that. They don't care, right? I mean, you beat Jacksonville and you're in the playoffs. You lose to Jacksonville. You're basically playing a playoff game against a 1-win team. Like, and you lost. So that's why I'm for the move to Matt Ryan, but I just because Matt Ryan would win them that game probably, but I don't know if it makes them that much better. The pass defense for the Colts is not that great. They gave up tons of touchdowns and tons of passing touchdowns. Actually, I have this stat right here. They gave up the second most passing touchdowns, and they were 14th in passing yards allowed. Now they forced turnovers, but their pass defense is not great, and now you're in the AFC where unless you're playing the Browns or the Ravens, no team cares about running. They don't care about running. They're just gonna toss the rock all over you, and your biggest glaring weakness is pass defense. The Titans as well, yeah. So you might win the division, but how much better does Matt Ryan make you?
That's the thing. As I said, 1 year too late. And guys, well, yeah, we're a bit over time here, so we too are late. So I'm going to wrap up. Brian, as usual, plug yourself, both the show and the network.
Yeah. You can follow me on Bolstered Up Sports, Twitter, and TikTok. Make sure to check for Sports Force on the Warzone Sports Network YouTube channel. We'll be having a new episode tomorrow night, so be sure to check that out. Thanks, Justin.
Always. And we are going to try to get Payton in here more often because I know he's missing this sports stuff, especially now his Browns are back to being relevant with Deshaun Watson. What are your estimations? What are your thoughts for the season going forward for the Cleveland Browns?
Like I said, until I know how long Deshaun Watson's suspended, I can't say. I have no prediction, but if Deshaun Watson plays the full year, we're winning the Super Bowl. I mean, it's as simple as that, right? I mean, it's just, as a fan, you want to say that, but we should be better than if we had Baker Mayfield. As we could tell, Baker Mayfield grew a little bit of sour on me over the year. So, but it's a blessing to be on here with you guys, man. I enjoy it every single time I get the opportunity to. And you're right, I have been missing this. We may even see a return here soon, but I might have a little bit of something in the works, so we'll see what happens. But as for right now, just show Justin and Brian, show them all the love in the world, guys. They deserve it. They've been working hard at this for multiple years now, and Yeah, thanks for having me on.
As you heard, guys, right here, Payton might be making a return. But if you still want to see Payton, come right here every Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. That is indeed hashtag this just in. Please put the hashtag in, or you'll be taken to Max Kellerman's awful show. Oh my God, it's terrible. But anyway, for Brian Bolster, for Payton Doyle, I am the Justin of hashtag this just in signing out. Thank you so much for watching and enjoy the rest of your night. Bye.
I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. If God's with the king, no matter, you're just the same. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
I said, can I be a legend? Search your soul and answer me this question. Do you think I have what it takes to be great, but still be humble and learn from my mistakes? Shit.